I've been caught in a shark feeding frenzy in the Bahamas. I think we are living in a time in society where it is about being comfortable, about trying to always be happy and trying to find ways to make life really easy. But I don't think we're designed for that. I think when I first got into freediving, it was all a little bit of fun and games. Like I knew that I needed to find a way to challenge myself more. My feet are in agony. My feet are so cold because I haven't got booties on. My hands are freezing from all the ice water. My face feels like someone's jamming me with pins and needles. And when it all boils down, you kind of ask yourself, what am I prepared to risk in order to achieve my goals, my dreams, my aspirations? I would say it's the most alone you can be on the planet when you're deep, like 70, 80, 90 meters deep underwater. There's no one down there. There's no one coming down for you either.
It's lovely to see you. Where do we find you today, sir?
Oh, I'm at home. Yeah, just down the coast in Torquay. Beautiful day. We're about 5 minutes from Bowes Beach.
Because you grew up in New Zealand, you thought, I'm going to move to Aussie, but you know what? I'm going to go for a part where the ocean's real cold and sharky.
Pretty much. No, I started off in Sydney, up in Manly, and that was amazing. But then with work, came down to Melbourne, and then I was like, I wonder if I can do my work from down the coast so I can still free dive and go surfing. And I was like, man, Bowes Beach, this whole area of Torquay is just so good if you're into ocean sport.
It is pretty. I've done a bicycle ride from Apollo Bay to Lorne on that section of the Great Ocean Road. I've done it twice. And as you're coming from Apollo Bay back east to Lorne, you're riding, looking directly into the Great Southern Ocean. It's quite a cliff top as you ride upon. There are some big shadows moving around under that water, mate.
Honestly, I reckon you guys have way more sharks up in Sydney, New South Wales. Like I'm all the time out in the ocean, and I've only once seen a shark down here. I don't know. Maybe it's just more murky.
Thanks for writing the book. I very much appreciate it, and I'm not because I'm a man in my 50s and I want to talk about ice baths, but I'm a man in my 50s and I want to talk about ice baths. But also, I found freediving not because I was interested in how deep I could go. I wanted to find a way that was relatively safe, that deliberately challenged my ability to handle my body's anxiety signals. And I experienced that. It was a very murky day. We were off Shelley Beach, I think, in Manly, doing my, I don't know, it was somewhere else, Newport. And I'm holding onto a weight plate at 5 meters, and my intercostal muscles are, it felt like if I had a gun to my face, that level of panic. And so that's kind of why I was also interested in talking to you, because my life has gotten better since I have deliberately sought out things that are hard, which is tricky in a life and a community and a society that's built around taking those hard things away so we don't have to deal with hardship. Where's the balance for you when it comes to, I don't want to have to farm my own food, but being hungry for a little bit is okay.
Yeah. Well, it's really, I love the way you've summed it up, because I think we are living in a time in society where it is about being comfortable, about trying to always be happy, and trying to find ways to make life really easy. But I don't think we're designed for that. Like I genuinely don't. I think, like, as you've discovered, when you go and you try something that's difficult, that's challenging, that forces you to face some internal demons, and a really loud voice on the shoulder just screaming at you that this is bad, that this is, you could die right now, then what happens is some real magic in those moments. Like, you learn so much about yourself. Those are the periods of time where you grow the most. They're uncomfortable at the time, but we are so good at adapting as human beings that if we don't have these moments of challenge, of stress, of failure, and of rebuilding, we simply don't learn and grow.
When it comes to physical discomfort, because there can be the stress of, am I going to make the mortgage payment? Things like that. These are stresses we don't want, but a manageable level of very difficult stress, cold water tends to be the one that you can get to that fairly, really ejector seat level without putting yourself in too much physical danger, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think for someone who's looking to take on some new challenges and experience that real state of discomfort, because I think this ability to sit in discomfort and figure out what happens for you and how you process it and how you figure things out, ice baths are a really good one for that. Freediving is a good one for that. Because what it does is it immerses you in these very uncomfortable positions so quickly, and you can do it in a really safe way. And I think there's this opportunity it affords you to kind of go, well, where does the pressure pull me? Like, does it pull me into safety and I've just got to get out, like bail straight away? Does it pull me to just kind of force and punch my way through this, or is it something else, right? Because if you understand and have a really good awareness of where that pressure moment pulls you in that discomfort, then it's likely that that's what happens to you in real situations in life. And sometimes where it pulls you to is not effective. It doesn't get you good outcomes.
You write in the book quite extensively about this, so I'm hoping you're okay to talk about it. You grew up in suburban New Zealand. You're the middle brother of 3 brothers. I'm number 2 of 4 boys, so I have an idea of what that's like. But we've been talking about physical discomfort so far, and for many people, that might be the extent of it. However, you were raised in an incredibly strict, somewhat extreme church, and I've worked with people who are in similar churches. Whatever physical manifestation of discomfort feels like to people like this particular person, paled in significance for the real mental discomfort that he wrestled with. And I'm wondering what that discomfort, how that compares when it comes to, talking to your parents about it or talking to your family about it, about kind of distancing yourself and stepping away from that community.
The community I found myself in was like a fundamentalist church. So basically, if it says something in the Bible, then that's what you've got to do. And so it's a very staunch way of practicing religion, and it doesn't afford you many freedoms. And it's interesting because my parents, they weren't that, like they were highly religious, but they weren't in a fundamentalist church. That was a choice that I made because my circle of friends, all surfers, all got into this one church. And it was the difficulty in leaving it was more about this loss of social connection with the people who I've surfed with, bought surfboards with, just did everything with. And it was, we felt all this also quite a unique social identity around being the ones that had found the true faith. And so, yes, you collude with all this stuff that looking back on it, I really question my sanity to think, how did I get so wrapped up in this that I really believed like this version of hell that everyone else was going to go to, and that if I stepped foot wrong, that I was going to end up there as well. So leaving it took years. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to leave now and then that's it, to switch it off. For me, it took a long time because one by one, me and my friends, we started to move away from the church, but the church fought back and really tried to keep us there.
It's a classic move of an organization like that, is cutting you off from everybody else outside of that organization, so that then to leave it, you would be alone. And to be alone as a human is the most dangerous thing for us. We can't survive really by ourselves very well. When you're in those moments, those initial moments where you first started doing freediving and breath holds and stuff like that, was any of that familiar? Were you like, oh, I've kind of been near this before. I've been near this feeling of existential, got to go, got to make a call here one way or the other.
I never really processed that at the time that way. I think when I first got into freediving, it was all a little bit of fun and games. Like I knew that I needed to find a way to challenge myself more, that I'd become too comfortable, that I was working with elite athletes in Europe and really not knowing if the things that I was teaching them in sport and psychology were actually effective. And so I thought, well, I want to start doing something, a dangerous sport, and see if anyone can learn how to be uncomfortable and survive it, right? If anyone can put themselves through their fears. And And a fear for me had always been, you go out into the open ocean and you're swimming and it gets really, really deep underneath you in pitch black darkness, in this incredibly deep ocean. The last thing you want to do is swim down into it and just free fall and sink into these incredible depths. And so when I started doing that, it was really just playing around the surfaces, as if like kind of dancing with this this idea that, oh, I could do that. Bit by bit, I discovered that the fears were always there, and they still are to this day. Been freediving 20 years, fear's still there. And it does link back to things that get you early on in life, maybe social isolation. Because when you go freediving, you are sinking all alone in pitch black darkness for a lot of it. And usually the rescue is first and foremost is on you to get yourself back. I would say it's the most alone you can be on the planet when you're deep, deep, like 70, 80, 90 meters deep underwater. There's no one down there. There's no one coming down for you either. And so you do grapple in those moments with the things that your mind tells you that it learned when you were younger about loss, about love, and about being alone.
I dare say most people, a big chunk of the bell curve never go past where they can touch in the ocean, because beyond where they touch in the ocean is the unknown and terrifying. And whether they saw Jaws too many times or they've watched Megalodon with Jason Statham or Anaconda or whatever, there's always something big and frightening and terrifying the moment their toes don't touch. What would you say to people about being out in the ocean just a little bit past where you can touch?
Oh, there's magic in it. I think with everything that comes down to physical risk, real risk, what you see is not always the whole story. And what I mean by that is that if I've been down to touch the bottom at 5 meters, then I don't all of a sudden try to go to 20 meters. I think about it, I plan it out, I have good safety people around me, and then I go to 6 meters, and I do that comfortably and come back before I push further. So what you don't see in freediving is just the amount of preparation, of risk minimization, and doing all these things that make it actually still look like a pretty dangerous sport, but in reality, you can do it very, very safely if you follow all the rules and you're very well prepared and planned. And the same comes for anything that we're doing. Like the rules of, I think, so if you were saying, well, what are the rules or guidelines to how to sort of take more risk in life so that you can learn more about yourself under pressure, then it's to take mini challenges. So the mini challenge might be to swim with someone more competent out to 10 meters and get them to gradually help you get a little bit deeper towards that 10-meter mark in a really controlled environment, one where maybe there's a safety buoy at the surface and just things that are going to take away all these risk elements, because you don't need those. You're already grappling and battling your own fear around what you're doing. I think your point is really well made. It's that most people won't do it. I think they'll either look at it and go, that's too dangerous and I can't do it. Or they'll go, not for me. I don't want to have that level of discomfort and fear.
You mentioned quite a number of times in the book, and it's a theme after my own heart, that the more you recoil from discomfort or something that's uncomfortable or conversation you don't want to have, the bigger it gets, the bigger and scarier it gets. That's the surefire way to make something bigger and scarier and more frightening. What would you want people to understand about our ability to adapt, not only physically, but also psychologically when it comes to facing discomfort? And where have you found to be the amount that most people are capable of just pushing towards a little bit?
Yeah, I really believe that what we avoid can become to control us. And so if we're avoiding it, it controls us. We fear it, we don't do it. And the example you just gave of not having a conversation, that's a difficult one, because you're worried about upsetting someone, or you're worried that there'll be friction and there won't be the same harmony afterwards. So if that fear prevents you from having a conversation, then what do we lose from that? And so if you're already upset with that person, if that person had harmed you in some way, or if that person was at risk of making a really big mistake, but you didn't feel confident to have a conversation with them, then that's no way to live. That's no way to be a great friend or, in a situation. So and the interesting thing is it comes out of us and our own fears and insecurities. And so, yes, it might be an uncomfortable situation, but a lot of what I try to get people to think about is what would be the impact if you learn how to have these types of conversations? Do you think you could get some skill at it where you might even get to the point where it's a really awkward, difficult conversation, but by having it, you enhance the relationship rather than diminish it? And if you did more of these, you would get better at it, because a lot of these skills are like physical skills, and it just takes a practice. And that after time, if you get more comfortable sitting in your own skin when there is tension, you get better at learning what to say. You get better at knowing how to stay calm and quiet and controlled, to ask better questions and to listen better and to reconnect with what that person's saying. But all of this takes some sacrifice, right? Because it's not that comfortable. And I feel like we're in some ways losing that ability to do that. And because the more risk averse we are, the more we try to wrap cotton wool around our kids, the more we try to make life always easy and comfortable, the lower our skill level at doing this basic sort of thing, which is critical to all relationships.
And it's true for the way our bodies move as well. You ever seen an 80-year-old man walk? Look at how big his steps are. Look at how uneasy he is on his feet. All right. At some point, it hurt too much to take a bigger step, so we took a smaller step. And then it hurt too much to take that step, so we took a smaller step. And now he shuffles. It is in being with the discomfort and moving our body through that discomfort under load that our muscles and our bones and everything adapt and maintain that. All the structures in our brains and everything, they give us the balance and give us the strength and give us the vitality that, we would hopefully have in our later years. And it's the same with our relationships and the way we handle stressful situations. We don't have a status quo. Like, what was okay yesterday is going to be uncomfortable the next day. And so we take a little step back, and then we take a step back, and we take a step back. And eventually we live our lives in the head of a pin. So what I love in your book, you offer some really practical ways that we can withstand those discomforts. One particular one, which, God damn, it gave me the willies, a training dive in the lake. Oh, fuck me. Can you take us? I've got the jitters just thinking about it. Can you take us through what happened at that training dive at the lake and what you specifically did to get yourself back in the water?
So when I was early on in my freediving career, I was trying to get deeper and deeper. And I think I got to the point where I was around about 25 meters I could go to, but it was awful. I really hated it. And it felt like someone was coming up behind me and just giving me a massive bear hug and crushing my chest every time I went to that depth. So I was going out with this club. There's only like 3 of us in Auckland, in this lake called Lake Pupuki. So it's amazing because it's right in the middle of the city. And so you can get there quick and on your lunch break, and you can go out and get 55 meters of depth. But the deal is it's pitch black. It's murky. There's ducks there. It's just this challenging environment. And so, yeah, I did that for ages. And then we got a bit more advanced, and we got a rope going. And I sort of passed that 30 meters and 40 meters. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, I've started making my own safety lanyards. Do you want to try my safety lanyard out?" And I remember looking and going, "Oh, it's a bit long and awkward, but all right, I'll wear it." And so it goes around your wrist, and then you connect it onto the rope that you're gonna dive down. And so on this particular dive, I went all the way to the bottom of the lake. So it was like 200 feet, sort of 60 odd meters, 55, 60 meters. And I remember just thinking, it's so cold, it's so dark. I've got to get going. I'm not enjoying this. I'm getting crushed. And I turned around, I started swimming up. And so I'm swimming for maybe another minute. And then I was like, that's weird. I should be back by now. And so I stopped swimming to kind of see if I could see anything. So I just stopped swimming for a moment. And then I felt myself being pulled, like dragged down. I was like, what's going on? It was like my arm was being pulled. And then I noticed that I got dragged right back down to the bottom of the lake. So back down to 60 meters, and thinking, okay, I think I know what's happened. That lanyard that I've just tried has got tangled around a 10 kilogram lead weight at the bottom. Okay, what should I do? And so this is the thing that you then learn in these moments is you might expect is your reaction is, it's like, this is life and death. But I didn't process it like that at all. I was like, oh, okay, my lanyard is caught. So what should I do? I either have to take my lanyard off or swim this 10-kilogram plate back or something else, right? And so, yeah, I took the lanyard off, and then I thought, well, okay, so now I've lost my safety device. So how do I stay safe on the way up? Because I've been pulled back down. There's a chance I'll black out before I get to the surface. I go, what do I do? So I'm swimming up now, thinking, okay, I've got to stay really close to the rope. So I've got one hand, I'm not letting go of this rope. It's running through my hand the whole way up the swim back. And I make a deal with myself. I will not black out before I see at least 2 fins in front of me to know that there's a safety diver there. And the mind is a powerful thing. And yeah, I did not black out. I saw the 2 fins, and I was just like, yep, came to the surface. All right, so there's a problem with that lanyard.
There's so much so much of everything in that moment. Were you surprised by how calm you were?
So all of the freediving has been about trying, for myself, my involvement has been to try to see what I'm capable of. I want to see if I can push my limits. I want to see if I can learn new skills. And one of those things I wanted to know is, can I stay calm under pressure? Can I stay relaxed? Can I make good decisions? Growing up, I remember being caught out on the West Coast surfing, and when a set of waves came through and I was in the wrong position. I'd been dragged out in a rip, and I was getting pushed closer and closer to the rocks, this cliff face, with these enormous waves detonating in front of me, and I was overwhelmed with panic, and I got out of that situation, but only by a whisker. And I look back at it and I go, I don't ever want to be in that position where I panic in those moments. And so that was one of my real challenges. And what freediving has taught me, and it's not just that one dive with that lanyard. I've been circled by tiger sharks off the before the United States US Open in Hawaii. I've been caught in a shark feeding frenzy in the Bahamas. I was going for a world record, not a world record, a personal best dive at a world championship down at 80 meters, and I hit my head on the base plate and ripped my mask off and swallowed water at 80 meters. And I knew I was going to black out on the way up. All of this stuff, in all of those situations, I stayed perfectly calm, made good, rational decisions, and made it out safely, all the way back to the surface. And not once do I think that even my heart rate went up. I think it stayed just perfectly baseline the whole time. And that is a learned response. And that was one of the things I really wanted to get. But you got to work for it, right?
Yeah, it's not like, if anyone has seen the film Free Solo, it's not like you're Alex Honnold and there's a part of your brain that just doesn't switch on. You don't have that amygdala fear response that fires. You actually learned how to do it. What are some things that the average person, average punter listening, can do to start getting themselves into that space where, when they get to those peak moments, maybe they won't be as calm as you, they can still have a little woo, but at least have a bit more latitude around their options in those moments?
The first thing is to just set mini challenges for yourself. It's like if you take your kid out to the beach and you encourage them to go out and catch a wave, and the waves are too big, they'll hate it and they'll never want to go back to that beach with you again. So the same principle for ourselves. So set small challenges, but kind of make them like weekly. What am I going to do this week? It just extends it out a bit further. And that's where you start to actually make some real breakthroughs. And while you're doing those mini challenges, be really conscious around what your mind is saying to you. What are those common patterns of language that you use? Like, I would find in my diving when I was going down that my brain would literally say to me things like, feels wrong. This is bad. You didn't take enough air. You're dying. Like right now, you're dying. I remember the day that my mind told me I'm dying. And I was like, oh my God. And I've got the world's worst coach on my shoulder. And so I do this technique called thought stopping that comes from sports psychology. And it has 3 steps to it. Catch it, cut it, replace it. So you got to catch that voice. You got to catch and even write down, what does my mind feed me when I'm in these moments where I want to perform, that I feel incapacitated or I feel too anxious. Like what's my mind saying? And I bet if you write it down, you'll be horrified at the things that your mind says to you when you're trying to be at your best. The second thing is then cut it. The technique I like to use is simply by saying, like almost yelling in my mind, stop, when I hear those language patterns. And then over time, I try to replace it. So if I feel like my mind says to me this, oh, you didn't get enough air. That's a really common one that freedivers get. Oh, you didn't take a big enough breath. And so what I do is at the surface, I visualize on my last breath that I've got 2 oxygen tanks in my chest. And as I'm taking my final breath in, I look around and I imagine that all of the oxygen is being sucked out in the environment and people having difficulty breathing. And then I get the 3 or 4 or 5 green lights on my oxygen tanks, and I visualize myself shutting those closed. And then on the way down, I just start telling myself, full tanks, full tanks. And for me, that I don't hear that other voice.
It's like, I've been sober for a long time, but it's very similar. Like when I stopped drinking, at first I had to trick myself. I couldn't get my head around, I can't live the rest of my life with alcohol. And I remember writing it down. It's like, until I can have a healthy relationship with alcohol, I'm just not going to drink for a little while. So I kind of tricked my brain. But pretty soon it became quite clear. It's like, oh no, fuck, I can't ever do that again. But I just couldn't be an acceptance of the other thing. So it's so wild that there's 2 bits of our brain. One part of my brain is trying to trick the other part of my brain. It's like, no, buddy, no, it's cool. Yes, of course. In a couple of weeks, we'll talk about it. It's never going to do it. It's so fascinating that these 2 systems, they're both us.
Right.
It's both us.
Yes.
But one of them we can kind of observe, which is really interesting.
But the brain is so malleable. That's the thing. And there's lots of research to show that it has difficulty discerning between things that you tell it that are true and things that aren't true. And so if you're feeding it things that are really negative or allowing that to run rampant in your mind, then it does change your breathing. It changes your physiology. It changes your posture. It changes so many things. And I think that there's real magic or power in being able to be conscious of those things and being able to do something with them. Because I think in those moments where we are under pressure, where we want to perform, often when we put ourselves through those things, it might be trying to achieve a difficult sales target. It might be a really pressing deadline that you've got to work on a project, or it might be that you've got an irate customer. Or
my kid doesn't want to get in the shower. It's become a game. It's like WWE every night. It's the worst.
Yeah, pressure.
But it is. It's the same.
Yeah.
I get elevated, and because I'm elevated, he's elevated, and then my wife comes in like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And now, shit, Dad, it happens.
Yeah, it totally happens. And parenting is a classic example, because we often find that we regress and we yell, we shout, we demand, and rather than actually becoming really effective in those moments. Because I think that we do need to slow down. If we can stay calm in those moments, we're far more effective. We feel better about ourselves afterwards, and we usually get a much better result.
You talked about breathing quite a bit, and we know that, vagus nerve stuff and long, slow exhales, that can hack our parasympathetic nervous system. But there's also, and you write about this, there's also signals that we can send our body through the way we hold ourselves, how we can even hold our face, that can literally change how we're feeling. And I'm wondering if you might be able to, because in those moments where I'm trying to get him in the shower, for example, there's things I can do, right?
Yeah, there are so many things you can do. I mean, a good example is if you've ever seen someone get up on a stage to present or perform or give a talk, and you kind of go, oh, they look tense. They're not sort of breathing very well. You almost feel anxious as an audience member when you see it. You can spot it because it's so visible. And what's happening is they are tense because their minds are saying, I'm not comfortable, I'm not confident, I don't want to be here. And their body is reacting by assuming that posture of weakness, of tension, and their voice goes up and their face goes flush. So a lot of the time we go, oh, count to 10, just relax, and we just say all the stuff. And it's what we call mind to body. But actually what's way more powerful is the body, and going up their central nervous system back to the brain to demonstrate that we actually are relaxed, we are calm. And so if your posture is relaxed, if your breathing is what we call tidal breathing, which is nice and relaxed, just going to neutral each time, not big forced breaths, not hyperventilating, and your posture is confident, your walking is confident, all of those things actually make a massive difference. Like to just see your whole sense of wellness, sense of confidence. And I do mention the face in the book, because if you animate your face, if you're smiling, and if you're relaxing your facial features, in particular around your throat and neck, again, it's really powerful in terms of the signals are sending to your brain to say, no, I'm fine. I've got this. I'm calm. And I think then you compare that with things like music that also helps shape our moods. You know how you can be driving a car and a song comes on and it just throws you back to a moment when you're like younger, and you kind of like either get teary or you get really happy. And music is just this amazing little cheat code to sometimes put us into a frame where we feel more powerful, we feel more confident. It shapes our mood, and it's so low effort to do it.
You mentioned music. I'm wondering, what's the most excellent time that you have called on the Benga bus to change a situation?
So I use music all the time for freediving. In 2024, I had to go up to Iceland in the middle of winter to try to break a world record to swim the furthest distance ever swum under ice, point to point. And there was no, I mean, there were escape hatches, but they were very spread out, and the ice was a meter thick. So I'd been experimenting for ages. What is the music, the playlist that I must listen to that will keep me calm and composed before something so terrifying as swimming 182 meters under the ice on one breath, being filmed by Apple with this huge cast around us and your crew? I was like, okay. So I experimented. I tried like really soothing, calming classical music. Didn't work. I went to hard rock like Foo Fighters and AC/DC. Didn't work. And I discovered that just playing island reggae. My daughter was into island reggae, lots of Kiwi reggae like LAB, Catch a Fire. And so my daughter made me this big playlist. And so I just listened to that. And I made everyone else listen to it as well, I'm afraid. Whenever I was in a car, everyone getting dressed into all the safety team getting in their wetsuits, we're listening to island reggae. They loved it.
So let's talk about that for a moment. I don't want to oversell it. I did a freediving course. I've never done it because I don't have anyone to do it with, and I'm not going to do it by myself because that's how you end up dead. And make no mistake, you can die holding your breath in an ice bath. Like don't fuck with this stuff. Like just because you saw someone do a breathe up on YouTube doesn't mean you can do it. It's really dangerous stuff. But I have scuba dived and snorkeled quite a bit, and I've done one wreck penetration, and I think that's enough for me. To dive under meter thick ice, you can't break through it to get out. Forget about it. The water's so cold that I mean, you know, if Wim Hof's to be believed, his corneas will freeze. The water's so cold that it's going to kill you anyway if you're not out of there quick enough. But to not have a way to get to air, my God, like that's terrifying to listen to. You missed one of the exit holes, like you couldn't find your way for a second there. What's going through your mind in that moment when you're trying to go, okay, what happens now?
So the day before I had to swim the world record, we'd been up in Iceland for a couple of weeks filming, and the world record distance is 181 meters, and my best ever was 20 meters. So this was a
incremental, mate. We talked about it. Incremental.
I know, right? I know. So I don't always follow my own
Williams.
So what happened was the day before this world record attempt, it had been snowing a lot up in Akari, so where we were going to do the dive up in the north. So we flew down to the south. The whole crew came down, set up a new track on a different lake that I wasn't familiar with, and they said, "Come out and just come out and see if you can do maybe 100 meters." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." So day before, I'm getting myself in the zone, fully prepped, like I'm going for the world record. Go out there and I talk to the safety freediver when I'm out on the ice. It's like, I'm just going to start just by swimming 20 meters. I'll come up at that hole because I'm just not. That's so hard to see where these exit holes are. And they'll explain, yeah, but so you're going to follow a rope down at 4 meters, and then there'll be a black bit of hosing over the rope, and that tells you directly above you is where that hole is. So look up, go slow because it's hard to see where the ice hole is because there's all the snow on top. So I do that. I go down, she follows me, and we swim along for 20 meters, and I'm hating it. My feet are in agony. My feet are so cold because I haven't got booties on. My hands are freezing from all the ice water. My face feels like someone's jamming me with pins and needles. I swim that distance. Everything feels weird and cumbersome. As I started swimming down, my neck weight smacked me in the back of the head. Anyway, I come up at 20 meters and I pull myself up on the ice, and I say to her, like, oh, I feel dreadful. I'm not going to do the 100. All I wanted to do is just swim back and just try to fix some of these issues. I'm so cold. And so she goes, okay, cool, let's swim back. So she goes first. I go down, I'm just 20 meters, like, just go. Like, don't even take that big a breath. I swim back. And what I didn't realize, right, is as I'm swimming, the first hole is not marked because that's the first hole. So there's no hosing there. And so I swim straight past the hole in the ice, and I keep swimming. Now I am tethered. So eventually I kind of go, whoa, I've come to the end. I see a wooden stake in the ground, and I'm like, what's going on here? There's no hole above me. So I turn around. I go, oh, I've overshot. So I start swimming back. And these holes in the ice are really hard to see. I still haven't figured out there's no marker there. So I'm looking for markers, no markers, so I keep swimming. And then I realize I'm lost. So I'm lost. I see no safety freediver. And so there's this rule that you have to follow in ice diving. You go to the ice. So I swim up, and I put my arms up above me, and I wait. I'm holding the ice, and I'm counting. So I say to myself, well, how long do you think it'll take before they find me? I'm thinking, doesn't matter, because I reckon even with that small breath, I've got a good 3 minutes in the tank. I'm going to shut down everything, and I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to stay here and stay calm, and I'm going to play a song. That's what it's going to do. And so I was just like, okay. That was the hardest I think I've ever had in my life, of how to push away panic.
And you used, you fill your brain with a song, and by that, like you call it dissociation, or you try to find something that takes so much thought. There's no room for the negativity and the fear to come in.
Yeah, you're kind of halfway there. So I want to distract my brain. I want to go into full leader mode. I put control of the situation. Everything's going to be fine. This is how you handle it. I'm following the correct thing. So that's the first bit. And then I'm like, what will make the time pass as someone comes to find me is playing a nice, relaxing song. Which song am I going to choose? And so now I'm doing the bit you've said, which is distraction, and putting myself into, I want to frame my mood. So the mood cannot be panic. The mood must be calm. So choose a song that's going to make me calm, and like play it in vibrant sound. That's what I was focused upon. It wasn't like looking around. Oh, where's the safety freediver? I didn't do that at all. I just like, nah, just gotta wait. They'll do their job. You do yours.
How, when you've had a near miss like that, and people have it all the time, whether it be something goes wrong at work, or they've made a mistake at home with their family or something like that, there can be the temptation to not go back or not try again. Why is it so important that we go back and do the thing?
I think every person has to make their own decision on that. I think if a person decides not to push through with something, and I've seen freedivers do that. I remember training in Egypt, and this guy, the number one guy from the UK, came down, and he was training for that month with a separate crew. He'd spent a fortune on it, got to a pretty safe depth, and then said, and all the talk had been up to how deep he was going to go, but then he got to the safe depth, and he said, I'm really happy with that. I'm going to stop there. But I was like, mate, you're 20 meters off where you need to be at least for the World Championship that we're about to all head to. What are you doing? You can't leave now. But it was like, as you described, he's like, no, that's it. I've had enough. I will not go through with it further. And it's interesting because he didn't stay really that active in freediving much longer after that. I think it really got to him.
When it comes to something like that, that's real life and death stuff. But when it comes to something maybe a little less like, last time I had a chat with my boss, I ended up getting shouted at, or it didn't go very well. what are some things we can do to, not necessarily rev us up, but prep us to go back and try again?
Yeah, so let's use that example you've given. So you get a bit of a bollocking from your boss.
Such a good word. That's a good word. Yeah. I've let every one of the freediving psychology puns go. Oh, a lot of pressure, get real depth to it, like all that kind of stuff. Like I've let all them. I haven't touched them because they've been great. Good dad gear, like solid dad jokes the whole time. But that one, beautiful.
You gotta go there.
Got it. You got it. You got it.
So what do you do? I think what happens if we are ineffective in terms of how we deal with pressure is that we go back to meet with our manager and we defend, we defer, we blame. So we literally attribute the blame elsewhere for our mistakes, because it takes courage to be able to go in and say, there were things that you said that I actually think you're absolutely right with that I need to take more responsibility for. Maybe there are some things that I disagree with, and I'd love to share with you why and give you maybe some data points to prove otherwise. But all these things that you're talking about, let's focus on those, because I've obviously done something that's upset you. And maybe there's a gap that I need to close. So I'm all ears. Where do you want to begin? It takes courage to do that. But here's the irony, right? By doing that, your manager looks at you and goes, this person is a problem solver. This person is someone who takes accountability. I work with a lot of leaders, and the number one complaint, I want my people to take greater accountability. I want them to step up, lean in, and own their mistakes. Why is that so hard? It's hard because it's uncomfortable, especially if we have a leader who is not that gifted or has a short fuse and really lets us know, because we feel disrespected perhaps in that moment. But actually, it's not about that disrespect. You got to get past that and realize that person has pressure and stress on them. You have it on you. How are you going to do this? How are you going to re-engage with that person by slowing things down and taking things really calm and just having a real peer-to-peer, like a conversation of equals, where you own some stuff and make it easier for that person to re-engage with you.
Sometimes we might not realize that we're in a state where our decision-making is compromised. What role does self-awareness play in this?
I think self-awareness is the key to all of this. It's at least 50% of it, right? If I don't know how pressure impacts me or where it pulls me, then what am I going to do with it? Like I can't improve at it. And so by doing things like the ice baths, by learning to do something or by trying something out like a freediving course like you've done, it makes us more aware so long as we reflect on it. So I find that there's 3 different ways that pressure pulls us. Pressure can really pull us into what I call like going all in, like hammer, where you just try to force the outcome, you rush. In fact, what you were just describing felt like, I might rush a decision. I might not get enough information there. I might not consult broadly enough because I want to force the outcome, and I might feel like I've got to take control. And that's what pressure does to me. Now, that might really get some good momentum going, but it also might have some negative consequences for you and the team if you rush in. So there's hammer. The second one is protector. I see this a lot in elite sport. So I've just been working with an NRL team in the preseason, and one of the questions I said, when the real big pressure hits, what happens to you? Hands up if you go to survival and you start playing it safe. You kind of know that you're following the game plan, but you're no longer playing to win. You're playing not to lose. And like about a third of this team went, yep. I was like, yeah, it's really interesting. They're aware of it. Can I help them to make sure that they do something with it so that they're more fluid to move, to go, oh, maybe that's not helpful right now. Survival is not good. And because I'm not going to be as spontaneous, I'm not going to see opportunities to be innovative and creative in my play. How do I do a bit more hammer at the moment and less protector? And so that ability to shift is really key. And then the third one is the overthinker, where you just get lost in your own thoughts and you analyze things to death and you ruminate and you pace up and down for too long, where you know it's no longer helping you. You don't have to be pulled in these directions, but it typically tends to do that. If you're aware of it, then you can try to go towards what we call more of your ideal performance state of being able to stay calm and controlled.
I won't ask you which NRL team it is, but that I love it. I think St. George were the first team to do it, and then Canterbury, Bankstown, and now nearly everybody does it. It's such a great demonstration of what you write about, which is to have these kind of rituals that reset before you do anything. However well or poorly the thing just happened, doesn't matter. You see them all after a try, they put their arms around each other, they go, they do these big 3 breaths, and they go, all right, boom. And it's like they're just starting again, no matter what. And those things are really important. You're right about this as well. The rituals that you did before every time, putting a nose clip on, like Now I'm There. It reminds me of my wife. She's a professional makeup artist. She does the morning shows here. And there was a police dog on set. All right. And the police dog was a Labrador. Fucking cute, right? Not an Alsatian, like delightful. It had a name like Barney or something. And it was on its back and it was getting tummy rubs. And I'm like, this is a police dog? Like, yeah, it couldn't get enough. It leant on my wife the whole time she was doing the handler's makeup, right? The handler put the vest on, boom. I'm at work now.
Wow.
Right. And it really reminded me when you talk about the nose clip, like, now this is it. It's business time. And how important that was. I don't have much time left with you, but I would really love you to just kind of speak about one of the concepts of the book that I really quite liked, the T-1. In those moments that you described, being at the bottom of a lake, getting chased by a giant eel, missing the exit, all those things, you were able to, and you write about this, you were able to be okay in that moment because of all the work that had happened before. Can you talk a bit about that? It's the 6 Ps: prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Can you talk about the granularity of that preparation and how much you visualize that? And so by the time that you get there, it's like, this is just another thing.
It is just another thing. If you've done all that preparation work, once you sit down to actually make that dive or roll into the water or run out onto the field, the nerves should have left by that point. And if you've done your preparation well, then often that will be the case. So the preparation normally starts for me a day out in terms of really starting to think about things carefully, planning out. I like to structure my day. So if you structure your day and you know exactly what you're going to do every 20 minutes of a day, give or take, and you do small things during the day like making your bed, making your lunch, all these little things, it gives you a sense of control. So I'm big on that. At home, never do it. Terrible, messy. But when I'm going to go and do this sort of event, I'll do this. I'll be really structured. And what that does is it gives me this frame throughout the day of how I'm going to spend my time. You spoke about the time -1. Time -1 is the most important time for me, which is I'm in that moment and that zone now where I've really got to switch on. Before time -1, I want to be off. Because if I spend the whole day nervous about this thing, worried about what I'm going to say to my boss, worried about the dive I've got to do, how far I'm going to get under the ice, then I will become hypervigilant and my energy is going to be sapped and I will do a poor performance. I want the opposite of that. So I'm going to stay off the whole day. No stressing, no ruminating. I give myself 2 worry windows, 5 minutes each, where I can think about the dive. I can go worst case scenario, stress, cry my eyes out if I want to, doesn't matter. But then after 5 minutes, alarm goes off, time's up. That's it. I get another one tonight. Great. Can't think about it anymore. And then when I get through to my time -1, that's when I do the switch moment. For me, a switch is a physical thing where I put on this little lanyard that goes around my neck and it has a nose clip on it. So before this moment, I'm Ant Williams, the dad of Luke and Chloe, the guy who teaches leadership and high performance. And then when that goes on, nose clip, now I'm switching identity. So I'm not faking it. And this is really important. I'm not trying to fake it, trying to be someone else. I'm being myself. But I'm being that version of myself that is the superstar version. I want to go full noise, full power. The version of me that comes out when I want to take absolute control and be ultra confident. So the superstar. And then the nose clips here, I'm there. My posture changes, my breathing changes. The nerves and the tension go. All I feel now is excitement, and I can't wait to do whatever I got to do. And anyone can do this. Anyone can do it. You got to learn what's that thing that will switch you on. And often we think, oh, that sounds a bit childish. Oh, I wouldn't do that. But you're missing a trick here, because I'm not saying go and be someone else. I'm just saying be you, but kind of go, this is that moment where I perform, have a moment, a switch motion, action, or saying that you do that turns you into the superstar version.
You said earlier that the fear is still there, the discomfort's still there, and that it was always going to feel that way. But because you do it so much, your ability to handle it is greater. Let's say people are listening to this and, all right, that's it. Maybe not an ice bath, but I'm just cold shower. What would you say to people about just, here's how you stand under a cold shower?
It does really come back down to just control of your physicality. The best thing that you can do in that moment is focus on your breathing and try to breathe from your diaphragm, because you'll notice when you get under the cold water, it's like, first thing that happens is you stop breathing, shoulders go up, neck tenses, and you're like, I hate this, get me out of here. So the trick with it is to stay really calm and be aware of where that tension is and release it. So it only might be 20 seconds of that cold shower. That's okay. Make the goal not how long you stay in. Make the goal how controlled you are and how relaxed your breathing is. And if you nail that on 15 or 20 second showers, you'll progress much quicker than someone who just tries to force it.
And just know that by doing it, just by exposing yourself to discomfort, you're increasing your ability to handle things that are annoying. And you'll probably find that the rest of your day becomes less annoying because you've already done something that is really annoying. And it actually makes a lot of things a lot easier.
It makes other things easier. It makes you feel immensely proud of what you've just overcome. It challenges your thinking of what you're capable of. It makes you feel just a sense of more control. And it translates, like it transfers into other parts of your life quite seamlessly. Not necessarily other hard risks, but other things that you find confronting, you'll find that the same techniques will also apply very well there. And when it all boils down, you kind of ask yourself, what am I prepared to risk in order to achieve my goals, my dreams, my aspirations? What sort of discomfort am I prepared to put up with in terms of my own learning of what I need to know in order to get me to those outcomes? And so if we do play it too safe, if we always let others take the lead, or we don't lean into those moments of challenge, we end up with a really comfortable, but maybe a little bit of a standard life where we don't know what our true potential is. We've never really gone out to explore it. And look, I'm not saying that don't do that, because that's not a way to live. I'm just saying it's a choice to make. If you want to have more excitement, more adventure, create it. Take baby steps, and don't worry if you're no good at it. Just make sure that you do the prep and make sure that you learn how to become more self-aware, because once you're aware, you'll start to fix little things one by one. And I didn't start doing this till I was 30. I was so risk adverse before that. And now I'm in my 50s. I go, just give me more of this. I can't get enough of it.
Mate, I'm so grateful I got a chance to speak to you today. It was great to read the book, and it's great to chat to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. It was lovely to meeting you. I really enjoyed the chat, and I'm so thankful that you read my book. Thank you.
Of course, mate. I am the demo. I am in the demo.
That's so cool.
Bang in the demo.